Hi, this is Heather Langenkamp from A Nightmare on Elm Street, and you're listening to WithoutYourHead.com.
Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neil.
And I'm Terrible Troy.
And we're joined by a longtime friend here of the show. Talked to many times, seen him many times. It's very good to have him back. Mark Patton, producer and the subject of Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street, which is releasing March 3rd. Very, very exciting.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here with old friends tonight because, of course, we just sold the movie literally a few hours ago. So it's pretty exciting. We were in somewhat of a bidding war, so the announcement just came out. So pretty excited to be here tonight. So yeah, the movie's going to open in Los Angeles on February the 3rd. At Le Mans Theater. That'll be the first. It's having a theatrical release first in around the country, and it begins in Los Angeles on the 3rd. So it's exciting.
Yeah, that's very awesome.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, that's great.
And I just noticed earlier today that it's I noticed the punctuation in Scream Queen, Scream, Queen, which really changes the title. The meaning of the title.
Yeah, you got to pay attention. I think the movie is like that, Neil. And I really, if you're just walking into it, and it's kind of intentional, that especially the horror convention people, I think, believed they were getting one type of movie, and as you saw when you watched it earlier, it's a completely different movie than you expect. But nevertheless, I think it's really satisfying to people. We've traveled all over the country with it now, and seen it with in large cities and small towns, and horror fans, people who have never seen a horror movie, and everybody else has the same reaction to it. The reaction is always the same. But yeah, I love that. That was actually going to be, I guess you'd say it like Scream Queen. Right,
yeah.
So go ahead and Scream Queen, which I've heard some, like versions of that so much at me, not meant in a nice way.
Yeah.
That was going to be originally that was the title to my autobiography. I'm writing a memoir, and that was going to be the title of my memoir. But because the documentary was originally called There Is No Jesse, and so now I guess they're flipping. So my memoir is called There Is No Jesse, and I gave up my title to that because I think it's just perfect. Netflix,
yeah, it definitely is. Yeah,
because it's kind of great name recognition there. Puts you right on the top of the Google search. So.
Yeah. Now, you said it might be different than what horror fans are expecting. Was that always the intent? What you made, or did it ever change? Like while you were filming the documentary, what you were trying to accomplish?
Oh no, I knew what I wanted to accomplish from the minute I conceived of this. Originally, it was just literally finding the right people who understood what I was trying to accomplish. And I went through a couple of people originally, and they just weren't good fits. You know what I mean? And I mean, at one point, we had talked to the people who did Nurse Sleep Again about doing something, but it just wasn't. I knew the story that I wanted to tell, and I knew that it was that it was a pretty deep story. Originally, I thought I would tell the story through other people. That it would be other guys that the same thing had happened to me, because I have a number of actor friends who all have the same experience. But as we began to film, when Tyler and Ronan came on, the directors and the DP, we started shooting in Florida, And we shot, it's like that was Robert England and myself and all the cast. We shot that stuff in Florida. It was some of the first stuff we shot, and Jack Shoulder. And it became clear that this is the right team to do it. And we just understood each other. It really is sort of, I call it the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, because it's like literally, it took each one of our talents to make this movie in the way that it got made. And then the connections out into the world. I mean, I hope you noticed, I'm sure you did, like the quality of everything.
Oh yeah, it's very well made. Yeah.
Yeah, the soundtrack is beautiful. That's Andrew Taylor, Alexander Taylor. I'm sorry, and it's like we have we had a pressing of that vinyl was really kind of fabulous, and that we offered. It was originally for our original opening was Fantastic Fest at Austin, Texas, and we were the tentpole event for them, which the year before had been Halloween. It was Jamie Lee Curtis. So people out in the business knew what was coming, because the word from the really deep end of the business was they knew what had transpired in the making of this movie. Because we've already been to TIFF, to Frame, Line, in San Francisco, Inside Out, the big film festivals, and the people were aware of us. And it's so interesting because it just really came to full circle. Like in 1 second, we won the Dorian Award for this documentary. It was announced the day before yesterday. Now, probably a lot of your listeners don't know what the Dorian Awards are, but the Dorian Awards are the Academy Awards for gay film. It's, it is a big deal. It's 300 film critics from around the world. And when we were announced, we were just so excited because I know the films that were nominated, and so we were just thrilled, in my heart of hearts, of course I wanted to win an Academy Award. Who doesn't? But that's your fantasies running around.
Yeah.
Then we won this thing, and so we go to the award shows on the 2nd of February in Los Angeles, and now we're eligible for the Academy Award in 2020.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Trip.
Damn.
Yeah, so so a year late, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
But just to know that you're, that like a humble film like this, because of course the film was self-funded. Then we did a crowd funder. To start like in the humble. Because the three of us, Tyler, Jensen, Roman Keenan, and myself, and then Matthew, we paid for this movie. We like sold our blood and some of our possessions, and I'd go out and sign these, autographs until my hands just fell off. I was, going through the conventions, and the convention world is very weird, and
yes.
And they don't, and I don't think that people, at the time knew exactly what I was doing. But I became pretty popular on the circuit. People really liked me, and that was thrilling. And I still don't understand the whole dynamics of the cons and all that kind of stuff. It's all a little weird to me. It's like being a deadhead,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, and since I only have one song to sing,
right.
Well, now I don't. I have many.
That's very true. Right.
I've made 3 movies since I did that, and I have 3 more lined up to go, which is so odd, and a talk show. So
wow.
I guess it started a new career for me. Yeah, that I wasn't expecting that. So I'm thrilled about it.
Yeah, it's interesting that so. Your story is you leave Hollywood after the backlash of Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, and then your documentary about your whole life, really, and about that specifically, has been so accepted by the LGBTQ community, and it's winning awards and stuff. It's it's like the full circle there.
Yeah, it's like I say sometimes, because I speak out on the road a lot. And tonight there's a guy that's watching the movie. His name is Dustin Lance Black. He's watching the movie in London tonight as we speak, which for me is a huge deal. Dustin he wrote Milk and won the Academy Award for Milk, and he's a huge gay rights advocate through films. He's very plugged into like Ryan Murphy and big time Hollywood, who are insistent on leveling the playing field in Hollywood so that gay people have a fair chance, and to change the dynamic. And they've been on this road for like a few years, and it's the road that I'm on, and it's like what I talk about. And to be accepted by that group is it's high praise for me. And because these are the people you always have people that you want to impress, and these were the people that I felt like I loved what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And I just originally when I started this off, of course I was mad at David, and and like you just saw the movie, and I won't spoil anything by saying that David doesn't really apologize to me in this film. He kind of gaslights me.
Yeah.
And which was great, because really by the time that we had gotten to that, although that scene is very dramatic and you can tell I'm about to explode in it. Mm-hmm. My poor little eyebrows just going crazy. And it was very intense for me. But by that time I had long realized that it wasn't about David. That it wasn't about anybody. It was really about me, and I had come to the realization that I walked away from Hollywood. Hollywood didn't walk away from me. I made a choice and I quit. And in retrospect, I wish I wouldn't have. I wish I would have been a little braver, but I couldn't be at the time. So it is kind of full circle. It is interesting. I've met some really fabulous people along the road here. Nathan Hanneman is one of the people that, I did his show in Indiana, and we filmed there. And, Mike Pence was the governor of Indiana at that time. Yeah. And he did that whole not mm-hmm. serving gay people. And people wanted to boycott that show. And Nathan called me, and said, I don't even know how to talk. I don't know what to say, because it would have bankrupted him, and, those kind of walkouts and blackouts are for like the NBA. They're not for a one-man band who have a horror convention that's once a year. So he called me and we talked it through, and I talked to the community for him, and then I flew out and I did the show. And Robert Russell and I did it together. And that was like so exciting. And Alfredo Duarte, I always get his name wrong. He was really such a nice man to me on the road. He sort of actually came up with screenplays, and he put that first panel together with. And then I met a lot of people who were pricks too. Don't get me wrong. There were lots of and strangely enough, a lot of people who felt like, this is really interesting to me, and I won't go. I don't get myself in trouble, but it's so interesting that there were people around those conventions who felt like they owned Nightmare on Elm Street. Mm. And, they felt like they owned it, and like they were giving us permission to,
to talk about it or like make stuff.
Exactly. It's like, are you out of your mind? It's like I had somebody once offer. They were like, oh, we want you to do this and this and this and this, and we'll give you a free copy of the book that we're writing. I'm like, good for you. Thank you so much for that. I'm writing my own book. Well, we're going to deign to write it on you. And I'm just kind of like, I would actually come about it a little more humbly than that. But I noticed that, I was with Robert Russell one time and we were speaking, and we were doing something, and a moderator, corrected him about an answer that he gave. She asked him a question, he answered it, and then she corrected him. And he was like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "Like, I'm a Nightmare on Elm Street
but I'm in that Nightmare on Elm Street.
You're talking about me. I was there. And it's so funny. There's a lot.
But no, I'm an aficionado. You listen to me.
Exactly. Especially with the Freddy Krueger, cosplayers. There's some real characters out there. I have to say I've punked one or two of them once in a while, but because they'll call me up and ask me just the most insane questions. Like what color are the shoelaces that are in the boots? And it's like, I don't know what color the fucking shoelaces are in the boots.
Right.
But one time I just made up a color and told the guy. I said they're purple because with the red light it turns them brown. And I went through I made up this whole thing. And so if you ever see a Freddy Krueger wearing purple laces in his shoes,
that's classic, though. That's great.
I asked his forgiveness later, but I did have fun with it for a while.
Yeah. There have been times when I've been at conventions and I almost felt like a fraud doing the show because I love all these movies and I know a lot about them, but I don't know every detail of every movie ever made. But I know, like, other people like John Dugan has told me, he's like, don't worry about that. No one cares if you know, like, who the gaffer was on Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4 or whatever. It's, as long as you appreciate the movies and you have personality and stuff is what matters.
Right, as long as you've seen it,
Yeah, right.
That's a funny thing, though. It's like I traveled, and I'm not telling about a school. Like, I went on the road and I realized that many of the people that I was doing panels with had never seen Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Oh, wow.
And literally never seen it. Like people who were in the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Mm-hmm. And like finally I said to Amanda when we were talking about something, and Amanda and I are really good friends. And, that went off on one of those homework challenges that the Q&A kind of go off on. And you could tell because the look on her face was this was years ago. You could just tell that she was like total shock. She couldn't follow the conversation. And so I sort of took her aside and I said, "You've never seen this movie, have you?" She was like, "No, I haven't." And I just, I don't like horror movies that much. And Kim's the same way. Kim had never seen any of them, and so, and some of the other actors. So it's really funny because a lot of people would talk about, I realized that a lot of people were talking about Nightmare on Elm Street 2, even fans who had never seen it. They had just heard that it was a bad movie and they just picked up that conversation. And so I started making sure that I asked people when they would say that it was a bad film, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, I'd say, well, what was bad about it? What do you define bad to me? Is it like because Wes Craven didn't make it bad, or is it homo bad, or is it just a bad movie? And everybody would come back and say, no, oh my God, it's not a bad movie and the acting's not bad or anything like that. It's just, Wes. And, and of course I have the answer to the Wes conundrum because I, interviewed Wes about it. And, that's a whole book in and of itself. I mean, if somebody would ever care to get into the weeds with that one, because it was very interesting, the way all of that played out with Nightmare on Elm Street, and who really has ownership of it and all that kind of stuff. So, because the real owner of everybody, the fans talk about Wes, but the real author of Elm Street is Robert Englund. And there would have been no Elm Street without Wes.
What do you mean? But what do you mean by that?
Well, the way that it went was Wes, when they made the original, I screen tested for the first Elm Street, and to play the part that Johnny Depp played, and Kevin and I tested together. So I had the original script. And the star of Nightmare on Elm Street was supposed to be Heather. Mm-hmm. She was supposed to be the Danny Curtis character. She was the star, not Robert. And she and Bob Shea, all of them totally missed what the star of the movie was. So when they wanted to do, and this is what I talked to Wes about before he died, when they decided to make Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Wes didn't want to make it. He didn't want a franchise. He had absolutely nothing to do with it. He wanted to do one movie and that was it. And he was ready to move on. But Bob Shaye was broke because he had given away all of the money to get it made. So he had to go into debt to get that movie made. So he had to make it simple. He just wanted the money, right? So when he did that, like, of course, they didn't even hire Robert to be in it, Robert Englund. I mean, they hired somebody else, like a stuntman who, a tour. And they just thought, well, we're going to make this, kind of trashy movie. And I honestly don't think that Bob Shaye actually read the script. And I don't think many people have read the script. I think they read pages, but I think that's why David got away with what he got away with. Because the script was being written as we went along. So anyway, when the movie made $35 million, which, you have to quantify that. That's like $300 million of today's money.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, Wes wanted to, he came back to make it into a franchise. But he did, and this is what I talked to him about, is like, he did the one thing that no artist should ever do to another artist, right? He just pretended like Nightmare on Elm Street 2 didn't exist. Mm-hmm. He just jumped from 1 to 3 because it wasn't his. He took our $30 million and our success, because we actually did get really good reviews and we made a lot of money. And he turned us toxic. And at the very least, he could have acknowledged that the movie happened, blended it into his concept, and no, he just completely dissed it. And so, of course, it could never, ever fit in. Mm-hmm. Because it's not a part of the series. It was never meant to be. It's a standalone movie. And in the course of that, that's when they recognized him too. That's when they recognized that they needed Robert. And it wasn't until part 3 that I think it really dawned on any of them that he was going to own the franchise. Mm-hmm. And if you notice, they all go away, but he doesn't. And Nightmare on Elm Street is Freddy Krueger, is what it is. Mm-hmm. And that's why I say he owns it, and he does own it. And I give him all props. I don't really care for what happened to the movie as it went along. It became a kind of a different thing. But I know that if I was in the same position as Robert, I would have done the same thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, he just, he built himself a ship and he got on it and he went for it. And so the reputation, I think a lot of it is the first 3 films. And then after that, it's all just, you're kind of on a gravy train. Mm-hmm. But I think that Bob Shaye, very especially, and I kind of said this to him too, I think he's one of the luckiest men in the world. Because really, New Line Cinema came out of Nightmare on Elm Street. And Robert is a billionaire. Mm-hmm. A billionaire. He has a $140 million house in Long Island. And but I don't know. Show business is really weird because, if you notice, New Line, if he owned New Line all the way through, he never gave any of those people another movie. None of them.
Yeah.
And and he kind of should have, what I mean?
Sure.
But that's the way show business is. Show business is very, very, I think it's so competitive that people don't understand literally how competitive it is. And because below the line, the money is so tight. Mm-hmm. So you're really not working for anything. You're working for credit. You're getting paid good money, don't get me wrong, but you're working after a certain amount of money, it doesn't matter anymore. So you're working for credit and status and whose name gets in the title and where it goes and all that. And it's cutthroat. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's literally, the size of your placement on the card, is a life and death matter, and it tells everybody in the business how important you are or how unimportant you are. And there are some people that, if they share the credit, it diminishes them in some way. And I never understood that, because I work with people who are geniuses, and they insisted everybody got the same billing.
Yeah.
Because it's a group effort. You can't do it without everybody. But college is really, really super weird that way. So it's just been a lesson. But I learned to play the game. I'm doing Scream Queen. I learned how to play the game. And you know what? Turns out I'm really good at it. So if you just look at it as like a game, and I'll be Miranda Pickler, and the devil works on it.
Right.
It all works out. Just don't take any of it personally, because it's not. It literally. The one thing I figured out, like I say in the movie, when Cher talks to me and says, do what's best for you because that's what everybody else is going to be doing. Mm-hmm. I came to I realized at one point that nobody else was thinking about me at all. They were only thinking of themselves. Mm-hmm. So I got very good through Spring Queen about saying what I wanted.
Yeah.
And people will hand you all kinds of, well, we don't have enough for that. It's like, well, if you don't have enough for that, then you don't have enough for me. Call me when you get your body together.
Right.
Because they're used to actors, just like feeling bad about themselves. I don't feel bad about myself anymore. If you can't afford to hire me, you can't afford to hire me.
Right. So, when you left Hollywood, then, like, is that something you missed at all on some level, the competition, or was that something you were actually glad to get away from?
Well, it's like if you define, like if you go into therapy and all kinds of stuff, or you grow up. I was raised on competition, and I did these competitions and drama school and all that kind of stuff. Every week we would go out and compete against people where you just stand up and do a monologue in a room, and you learned how to win. You learned how to I was a winner. Mm-hmm. I was taught when I was competing that, I went up to this one girl one time. She was like a national stage champion, and I won my first trophy. And I went up to her, and I was like, look, I won. And she was like, well, what's that trophy for? And I was like, yeah, I took second place. And she goes, well, you didn't win. And I was like, what do you mean I didn't win? She goes, no, you lost. They gave you a trophy, but you lost. Only first place is the win. Mm. And I was raised that way, and I knew that. I forgot it when I went into show business. And the thing is, I kind of like competition, but I got that feeling confused with fear. And then I became afraid, and I became afraid around the gay thing because, it's like, it was kind of the perfect storm, the AIDS, what was going on there, the closet appearing again in show business. And it was a perfect storm because, like, when they switched out Nightmare on Elm Street, right, when they decided that Robert was the star of Nightmare on Elm Street and not me, well, I had, contracts for publicity and all that kind of stuff where I was supposed to go out on the road and, do interviews and all this kind of stuff. And they just took all that away from me and gave it to Robert. Mm-hmm. So there I was. If I would have had a platform to explain myself, to the press and say, oh, yeah, I chose to do that or whatever, mm-hmm. But we weren't even invited to the opening night. I mean,
we're even invited? Murphy, that's crazy.
Yeah. Michael Murphy and Joel Soissons bought me a plane ticket to go to New York for the opening night. I mean, all of a sudden my press agent was gone. And it was all, Robert was leading the gay pride parade in New York. And it's like they didn't know who I was anymore because it was no longer, I wasn't the star of the movie and there I was no longer the person they would be pressing was Robert England. Mm-hmm. Literally my contract was, if I wanted to be a really mean guy, I could be. Because the contract for Nightmare on Elm Street, which I still have, Nightmare on Elm Street 2 cannot be mentioned without, you can't mention any actor without mentioning my name. Mm-hmm. I have to be mentioned first. So in any publicity, whenever they release anything, they can't put Robert's name on it without putting my name on it. My name has to go in front of him. That's why NECA doesn't make any figurines, because they would have to pay me. And there's no upside to it for anybody, because they can do Robert for free.
Yeah.
But I have to be paid. So it's okay. Again, that's just business, because I've made a lot of money from Elm Street over the years, from residuals and all that. But anyway, so I missed the competition, and like the shelf life is really short. I was offered movies for 5 years after I left, and I just turned them down. But of course, by that point, Tim was sick, and he was about to die, and that was just too ugly. The world was just too ugly for me at that point. It was just too much. I was having a nervous breakdown. Like my friend Jeff says in the movie, I was having a nervous breakdown and I didn't even know it, because there was so much pressure piled on top of a 25, 26-year-old boy. Your lover's dying. Like my family saw the movie in Mississippi, Scream Queen, recently. And I had some relatives who came up to me and said, you know what, oh my God, so we had no idea what you were going through. Because if you were a woman at that time, we would have surrounded you like a family. You would have been and everybody would have taken care of you. And what you got instead was people had no idea, and you had to act like your friend was dying. It's just horrified. They were just horrified, but that's what it was. I mean, it's like carrying that kind of grief and that kind of ugliness, made me not care about show business so much. But now I do understand that I like it. I like the competition. I'm competitive. I have a good brain. I didn't think I had a brain for business, which is one of the things that Scream Queen taught me, and that I do. I mean, I had businesses, and I became wealthy in another world, still thinking that I was just lucky. And I thought I would always think all of my life that I was just lucky, that everything that I did was so easy that obviously anybody else could do it if they wanted to. And I would just be like, I'm lucky. And then, finally one day, one of my clients, a lady who was a very brilliant woman, on the big truck ride, she goes, you're a genius. Don't you know that? And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, no, you're incredibly, incredibly, incredibly intelligent. And I was like, oh, yeah. But see, all my brothers and sisters are as smart as I am. So it's just common to me. I just thought everybody did. Speak a couple of languages. And if you wanted to start a business, you just open it. And all of a sudden you're, at the top of the world. I mean, that's what I thought was show business on a certain level. I thought I could just leave show business because I entered it so easily that it just didn't seem that difficult to me. And the funny thing is, when I was ready to enter again, which like now I'm entering again through a different door, I'd be honest with you, but this has been a lot of work, but it's been just as easy. Because anytime I need something, it just shows up. And anytime I'm ready to walk through the door just opens, if I have the courage to walk through it. And my friends who made this movie with me are having the same experience. Like where they're like, oh my God, everything is so, the serendipity of the whole situation is so bizarre. And I was like, get used to it. This is how it works. Because the minute you put it, that's for everybody. The minute you put out into the universe, you're really ready to do something and you own it, it'll show up. And, like you, with your weight loss, right? You were ready to be seen. And as soon as you were ready to be seen, that weight just started dropping off. You had to work for it. But
yeah, it was, because people do say like it's hard work, and I guess it is, but once I wanted to do it, I lost 100 pounds in less than 6 months. I mean, that's and I didn't get surgery or anything. Right.
It was just you. But you were ready. And I always think that when you're ready, it just happens. Because I think we all have this ability to create inside of us. Every one of us, I think we're all artists. I think we're all creators. But some of us are just more in tune to, okay, I'm ready to walk through that door. Open the door. Come on, it's time. And when the door opens, you say yes and you walk through it. You don't say no or maybe, or you just say, like when using your weight thing as a metaphor. It's just like when you notice the first 20 pounds came off, you were ready to go. and then it started to slide off. I know it's probably more difficult. Those last pounds are more difficult than the first one.
Yeah, I've lost a total of 140 pounds, and now it's kind of at a certain weight, but I haven't gained. I maintained my weight, so that's fine by me. I actually lost 4 pounds this week, but
But yeah, you look great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I feel great, which is probably the most important part.
Oh, it is. It's like offering a whole new world to you.
Mm-hmm. How about yourself? How are you feeling, like, physically?
Well, I'm actually doing well. I got very sick at about 6 months ago. And I was in the middle of this tour, and it's like I did like 40 cities and like 20 weeks basically. I really traveled the world, and I was thinking, wow, I'm just, I'm really tired, but also I'm 60 years old, and flying on a plane 4 times a week is a lot, and staying in hotel rooms and in and out. I was just thinking, I'm really tired, and then my thing is different. I have a lot of trouble keeping weight on. So, that's a part of the illness that I have. So, and my weight dropped, and I went down to like 145 or 150 pounds, and which is really, I'm at about 155 now, but on somebody like me, 5 or 10 pounds is a lot. And, well, it turned out I was very sick, and that my medicines had failed. But for the first time in 17 years, and my HIV medicines, and I went back into an AIDS diagnosis. So I had to go to bed. I've been in bed for 2 months now. Literally for 40 days I was in bed.
Wow.
And but all they had to do was switch the medicine. It's like I switched medicines, and now I'm on mend again, because that one medicine lasted 17 years for me. Yeah. And the next one will last 17 years more. But the side effects of them, you have to get used to. They get, pretty rough at the beginning. So I did that. But it, again, it's like those lemon lemonade things. It woke me right up. Again, to how lucky I am. How fortunate I am, because I should have been, dead 30 years ago. Yeah. And that's when all my friends died. So this is all just a gift. And when you talk about when you're talking about Nightmare on Elm Street and leaving the movie and the full circle aspect of it, I really believe in my heart that I made Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy's Revenge, to make scream things. I think my real purpose was this conversation, but I had to have the whole journey to be able to be an authority about what I'm talking about. And now I can talk to young kids honestly, and say, this is what's happening to you, and this is how you can change the world. And here, let me hold your hand while you change the world, because the world is changing. And it's either going to change for good or for bad, and it's going to either be good or bad. So choose your team, and so that to me is terribly exciting, that you can have, these conversations right now. It's the same thing with the political situation now in the United States. It's horrible, but it isn't new. It's happened before, and there's going to be a winner and it's going to be a loser. So choose your team. And the last time we did this, 600,000 people died. Americans killed each other. But hopefully we don't have to go through that today. But you've got to know what side you're on. You can't sit it out, because once you sit it out, you've chosen a side. And so, people get real intense at this particular point, and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. It's just toxic as hell. But it's the way we communicate now. So you got to learn to communicate on it, and you better learn to know what to read and what not to read, and who to avoid, and don't fall into needless bullshit with people, because there are some people that are out in the world and all they want to do is trick you, and they're tricksters, they just want to upset you, and, just let them fly off into their own little reality, because you don't need it. Who needs it? You know the truth. We all know the truth. We all know what's going on right now. and we can either own it or not own it. And, it's a choice. But that's the same thing with with what I'm doing with my documentary and whatnot. Is I just decided to stand up and tell the truth, and this is what happened. When I started telling the truth, this is Scream Queen is what happened. And I know you saw it, and I know that.
Yeah, I love it. It's very powerful.
Yeah. So instead of and in no way denigrating, right? Because I'm not, because I love Never Sleep Again.
Oh no, it's different. It's different.
Oh,
it's
and I think that's what people were expecting.
Yeah.
Or I am expecting. And I just it was meant to be a different thing. But I could have never done it without Never Sleep Again.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to be there for this to happen.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting that Never Sleep Again kind of brought you back to the, back to the horror world. And now your own documentary, Scream Queen, has brought you to a different audience. And so when you do the festivals that aren't, horror specific and other audiences see the movie, and more people see it when it's theatrically released, but
right.
What do they feel about the movie? Because obviously it's winning awards outside of the horror world.
Oh yeah, I think it resounds even more outside the horror world than. Well, I don't know. It's like both, both reactions are the same. But I always say it like this: if you've ever been bullied, or somebody has shamed you in a way when you were young and you had no power, but then you got the opportunity to go back and say, "Wait a minute, you misunderstood what I was saying." You missed the boat with me because I'm not a loser. And you get to correct it. I think everybody's had that experience in their life where somebody just kind of shit on them, and and I think we replay those things over and over in our mind, the ones that really matter to us. And the thing with me was the way I grew up and whatnot. I mean, I grew up in a very small town world, and people threw rocks at me. Literally threw rocks at me when I was a kid. And, because of the way I walked, or the way I talked, or the way I dressed, or, just everything was just wrong. But not big wrong. Just wrong enough that it would cause too much attention. And, but I never lost my confidence. I moved to New York with no money, never been on an airplane, to be a movie star. And that's what I became. And I moved there to be on Broadway, and I did that. But I let some little man, little David, little David, some little man in a room who I had no respect for, rob me of my confidence. And that's what he did. And he didn't even know he was doing it at the time. But I gave this amorphous kind of thing all this power over myself. And then, like the drag queen says, like Bunny said, don't you love Bunny?
Yeah, Bunny's great.
Well, it's so funny because Nate had no idea that he was like the star of this movie. Like we played it in Salem. He thought he just had a line or two in it. He didn't realize that he was going to be the thing that held it all together. But it's like what he says, it's like when in the middle of the movie where he says, well, you have to go and face the monster. And that's what you got to do. And when you do, you will realize that the wizard ain't wearing no clothes. And that's what happened to me. I had lost my confidence over some little man who had no power at all. And then when I gathered it back, and now I had my power again. I took it out. And I think that's what this is all about. To be able to have this conversation with you, particularly with you. Like because you did some of the first panels that I did. And I was so nervous about how much I could say or what people would accept from me. Or, I was in scary territory. Those people were people that I was afraid of. Those horror fans.
Yeah, there's my first panel, too. So.
Yeah, it took me a little while to realize that all those nerds out there and all those dorks had all been picked on. And that they were my people. And then they recognized me, and they really did become my people. And they made me the Scream Queen. And they all love me now, because I receive nothing but love when I go out on the road. No, on the internet, nothing but love. I dare you to write something nasty on Facebook about me or on the internet. And you watch the people who come out of the corner and they're going to strangle you, and they carry this shit. And they're like, how dare you think about him that way? You know, it's just like, don't you know who he is? Like, thank you. I love you guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Before you knew that about that audience, so was it a hard decision to do the conventions? Because, you know, you do the first movie, and then you read all the stuff online, a lot of negative stuff. Was it like hard? Like these are be the kind of people that are there?
Yeah. When I think the first thing the first place I went was Amsterdam. Alex Vinson and I went to Amsterdam together, and I was trying to do a show, and they called me from Amsterdam and said, well, why don't you do this little one first so that you'll know what you're getting into? Because I was going to do Cherry Hill was the first show that I did. And so Alex and I flew to, I didn't know him, you know, and we flew to Amsterdam, and he was really only interested in going to the hookah bars. And so he was like, I'll give you one day. And we were there for a week. So we went, and it turned out it was a Star Wars convention in the middle of Germany, right? So my first dip in was like all these guys dressed in Star Wars costumes singing in German. It was really Nazi-esque in the middle of these fields. It was scary. I was like, oh my God. And then I went to Cherry Hill, and I said, Nico. It was my first, Nico Hughes. And then, you know, for the first, say, 6 months, people did weird things to me. They, you know, like they would come up and get Kim's autograph, but they didn't want mine. And some would like kind of huff at me, you know, like guys and girls too. Girls could be extremely mean. Like, oh, pussy, you know, they're the first ones to scream pussy. And it's like, so I went through that, got through it. And then there are certain people that still won't have me come to conventions.
Really?
And they say it, they say it in all different ways, but it's very clear what their thing is. And, you know, but I just, you know, set up camp right next door to them. I just ran a movie theater and show night there on the street, right across the street, charge some money. So, you know,
that's classic.
Like, you're missing out, dude. You're doing all the you're doing all the press, and I'll just set up across the street from you and break in the dough.
I love it. Yeah. So I have a question of, you know, after watching Scream Queen and just knowing stuff about you, if Nightmare on Elm Street 2 was presented to you as like this is a gay undertone film, would you have accepted it?
Oh, absolutely, sure. I mean, I just played a transgender person, and like transgender person, they didn't even have words for transgender person.
Right.
Like in Jimmy Dean,
right.
like Karen Black, and I played the same person. You know what I mean? They kept going, "Oh, he's a gay boy," and I'm like, "No, he's really not a gay boy because gay boys don't generally want to chop their dick off." And that's, you know, it's a different thing. And we were lucky because Robert Altman really got it, and he, you know, had a whole trans community around me and Karen. We got to know a lot of trans people and how it, I would have absolutely done it. And then I would like to redo it now. I know the estate is like coming back around, and they're going to do something with it because they have to, because it's so much money. But have you ever watched like American Crime in ABC or any of those anthology series? I really think Nightmare on Elm Street, each of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, would make a great 8-part series for Netflix or HBO. And I would love to redo a Nightmare on Elm Street 2 as a full-on coming out story centered around Freddy. And, you know, I mean, I wrote that Jesse's Lost Journals, and if you read into that, there's a script inside of that movie, inside that book. And I just think it's so fascinating, you know, the things that were applied to, that other people applied to Freddy Krueger in regards to Jesse. You know, like, I just think they're so incredible to explore, you know. It's like the fact that he doesn't kill, you know, in the movie, he doesn't kill anything but boys. No girls are killed in my movie. And only guys that are attracted to me, that show some attraction towards Jesse, are the ones that get killed. And so I think it would make a really, and I'd make it dark too. I mean, I'd go super, super, super dark with it, and keep Freddy right in the shadows where he belongs, and I'd make it terrifying. But I'd make it terrifying with the whistle of the wind in the tree, kind of scary, because that's what I think Nightmare on Elm Street really is. I don't really think it needs to be all those effects. I mean, for me, the most powerful kill in all of Elm Street is Grady's death, because when he's killed in that room, you could put yourself in that room. Like, you smoke some meth. Kids smoke meth nowadays, I guess, right? And you accidentally murdered your friend in blackout. You just knifed him. And then what happened? Do you know what I mean? Because we've all had that dream probably about killing somebody, and you think you killed somebody, but you got to cover it up. And if you've had that dream, you know how terrifying it is. Like, I'm going to have to carry those secrets for the rest of my life. And, I mean, just to play on all of that would be, fascinating for me. And also there's some really fabulous actors now that are, that are young actors who really have the chops to pull something off like that. And they have the freedom to, like Connor Jessup's I'm a big fan of his, the kid from Closet Monster. Because he can go there. He can go there. And, he's a gay boy too, so that makes me really happy because he's out of the closet. Be a movie star out of the closet. It's just what I always wanted to be. I didn't realize until later that was my dream, and that I was walking that trajectory. And had I stayed on it, I might have really fulfilled my real dream. Because in my heart of hearts, I wanted to be the first gay movie star, real movie star that was out of the closet and not. But now, because of that, what's happened in the world, all of that has changed. Like, I think gay people used to, or the film industry was waiting for, that gay guy who looks like a straight guy, and he can be a movie star, and he kind of fools everybody because nobody knows he's gay, right?
Right.
That's not what the paradigm is anymore. The paradigm is, I want a big homo star. I mean, Billy Porter is what's happening now. It's it's just like I always say, like, I think we're about to go through a renaissance in the movie business, and I think you're going to see some really exciting things. And the reason that I think that is because people like, say, Ryan Murphy, right? Ryan Murphy has a $350 million deal with Netflix, and he has guaranteed all of that $350 million that everybody a lot above the line will be a lesbian or gay or transgender person, right? That means all the directors, all the writers, all the stars, and all the producers will be those people. And look at RuPaul's Drag Race, right? I would say look at a drag queen. Right? Look what a drag queen does with some twine and some fabric, right? They create this whole world, right? Right. Well, gay people were forced to do that for their whole lives. Like, we were allowed to be the costume designers. We were allowed to be the makeup artists or the funny little bit characters. Now, think about taking that energy and putting it right in the center and throwing millions and millions of dollars on top of it and see what happens. There's going to be some fabulous
That
movies.
is ridiculous. Just thinking of it.
Yeah, think about it. I mean, think about letting, like what RuPaul has done with, a drag trope. And if you see people like Louisiana Purchase, and now you see the Boulay brothers, what the Boulay brothers are doing with their show. I think that's what's going to happen at the conventions too. I always tell these convention guys, you better wake up, because you got to get on involved, because there's some people that are going to come in and take over your shows, and they're going to put you out of business. Because when the drag queens and the horror people join up and decide to put on a convention, watch out. Because, like when they put a drag queen and then a horror person, and a drag queen and a horror person, and those drag queens up, and all of a sudden you're going to have a 3-act play, and you're going to come in and you're going to get your money's worth when they come in. And those boys are plotting because they're business people. And I think today's of just bringing in people, a girl, and sitting her down at the table and charging $50 for an autograph is not over. because you want the whole event, and the gay people and the drag people, they like to do the event. They're not just there for the money; they're there for the show. I mean, when I was at Fantastic Fest for the opening, Peaches Christ did a drag ball for us. And I mean, they had drag queens from all over the world come in, and they had like a dragulator where you go in this machine, and 40 seconds later you'd come out fully in drag. And they had rock and roll, like we had Stevie Nicks drag queen doing seances over in the corner, and it's just unbelievable. And all the straight people were just going like, "Oh my God!" They were like at Woodstock or at Burning Man. And it's like, that's what the convention. And that's what the convention should be like. They should be like Burning Man. Just like really well, the costumes and the cosplayers and the drugs and the everything is fabulous. How that? And so if I had more energy, I'd do it myself. But I don't have much energy. But I have a feeling that some of those boys and I are plotting right now. So wake up, boys.
I like that idea. I like that idea a lot.
They're going to come and get your money. Yeah. You can't get lazy in show business.
So how is the festival scene? How is it different than the convention scene?
Well, it's really interesting because it's like what I get paid for in the 4 conventions you have to do for free in the festival. So, and I've really sort of switched that up because, I learned to monetize everything because we just had to. I mean, it was just like, so we put out, like, say, our album, like our vinyl. We have a pink vinyl, and we sell that, and we sell pins, and, John Cameron Mitchell's a friend of mine, and his people who built Headway Swag came on, and they're working with me now to make really impossibly cool, one-of-a-kind things, and that people just need to have. And like, I think, now we do the film festivals, and they're like, the people are like, oh my God, I had because I'll have a line like an hour long to sign autographs. And they're like, we had no idea that people would want to do this. It's like, yeah, you got them captured. They're all fans. They all want the autograph. So now we charge for autographs on the road like that. And people love it. We do a meet and greet. And now all the film festivals that we've gone to are like, oh, we're going to have, next year we're going to have so-and-so come and sign autographs. Because the fans really love it. It's like I was in Cincinnati or someplace, and we did a film festival. And the line to get autographs was just unbelievable. I mean, people are like, we live in Cincinnati. We don't like see movie stores.
Yeah. Right.
So, so they show up. I said that to people too. Like, I have a business idea that I would love to. I had a friend who opened a business, and he was a Broadway business. Like, he opened this business, and he wanted to only take shows to little small towns and little towns. And people were like, oh, no, that can't support it. He was like, no, trust me. I can take any show to any small town in the world and sell it. And he did, because those small towns never got any entertainment. Yeah. So they would show up for anything. And he sold that company for $14 million. And now he's the producer of Rent and what is that? What's it called? I forget. Hamilton.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Wow.
He's a billionaire. And it's all because it came off of that, like, you got to go out and get the people what they want. So I thought that, like, we started doing now this thing where I have a package that goes out on the road, bypassing the conventions. And I go out with a screening of Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and a screening of Scream Queen and a meet and greet. And I fly in for a day, do those 2 movies and out, and make 10 times more money than I make in a convention. And
it's all I was going to say, Gunnar Hansen, who I was, friends with at the conventions, he had told me that, like, the conventions in cities where, like, there's a lot of other things to do, like Las Vegas, New Orleans, Los Angeles, never do well. And that because people go there and they could go do something else. And at, places where you're not going to see people, like you said, Cincinnati, And, you're not going to see, in LA, you're going to see people just walking around in the streets. So you're not going to go pay to meet them. And,
But if you're in Los Angeles, nobody wants to pay for your autograph. Because everybody's famous, right?
Right.
You go to, my thing is, I think the most underserved market in the world for horror fans are African Americans. And I would take I've had the experience of doing some now. Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, those underserved states that have a lot of Black people in them who love horror movies. And they're generally people who don't have a lot of money. You lower the prices a little bit and you make it up in volume. Like I did a convention here in Mexico and I got 50 pesos an autograph. Now 50 pesos is about $3. And people were like, how can you work for that? And I was like, I signed 3,000 autographs at $3 a piece. And for me, $9,000 for a weekend is a good amount.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I always thought that about Sid Haig would never raise his price over $10, but he always had a line. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I know people who would charge, a lot of money and would have no one there. It's like, well, if you charge a lot of money but no one's there, well, you're not really selling anything. Right.
They get their ego involved in it. Like Sid was great. I went to Europe with Sid one time and there was some couple actors really acting up like big movie stars. And he was like, they were locking themselves in the room and they felt like they were too famous to be doing what they were doing. And he was like, fuck you, it's like, we're leaving. And he's the one, I quote him actually in the movie. It's like, if you're going to be a whore, be a good one. And he'd say that, said that to me. He was like, suit up, get out there. You're supposed to be an actor, do it.
Right.
And he would do that thing because he had 100 different pictures, right? And he always had something different to sell people for $10 a pop. And so they keep coming back to him because he'd have a different picture and they got to talk to Sid and they loved him and he made a really good living.
Yeah.
And people really liked him.
He's such a personable guy too.
Yes.
Yeah, he was a sweetheart. You know what I mean? And he was a big fucking movie star. And Clue's the same way. Clue's Gulliver, I love.
Yeah, he's the man.
Like he's 92 years old now, you know what I mean? But it's like he's a movie star and he knows how to sell. And he knows how to give people what they want. And I watch those guys and I listen to them, And so that's why you keep the prices low. Kim and I never raise our prices, because we want you to buy something. And I figure after you bought one thing, you can have it all, because, really, I mean, when you really get right down to it, it's also ridiculous. And eBay is what drives it. So if there was no eBay, actors wouldn't be charging money for autographs. They just charge a promotion fee and and now it's monetized. But I still think when I'm signing autographs and at the end of the day I have a big pile of cash, I just can't believe how lucky I am. Oh, this is really cool. And I see people just bitch and complain, like at convention when it's not going well. And I say to them, how much did you make an hour? And they're like,
well, break it down.
$1,000. It's like, how much do you make an hour? And they're like, well, like $200. It's like, where else do you get $200?
Right.
And people are saying to you, I love you. And then they want to buy you drinks and dinner and, tell you how important you are. Like, if you can't get down with that and be sweet about it, then go someplace else. You need a different job.
And I really don't do the conventions anymore. But I do more festivals now. But you could tell. I think I'm a better fit at the festivals. I had a great time at the convention, so it's not like I want to put them down or anything. But
it's just a very specific thing.
Yeah, and like you said, just me specifically. Like if I'm at a convention, I want to interview someone. I have to take them away from people that are paying. Where at a festival, they want to talk to me because they want to sell the movie. So it's a much better fit.
Absolutely. And if you present them, in the right way, the interview can become the event, and people love sitting in on interviews and hearing them. They're just, there's so many different ways to come at show business if you just get out of the mindset that there's only one way to do it. you know, and it can all be, because really it's all supposed to be fun, and it's all supposed to be entertaining and informative. I mean, you're there, you know, people want the information, they want to know, they want the details, you know, they want to get into that. And then some people just want their autograph and their selfie, you know. But there's room for both things. But I prefer the conventions too. I mean the film festivals, of course, because you're like, you know, you're treated as an intellectual and a person of worth. Where sometimes I do feel like, not the fans don't make me feel this way, but I feel like I'm a piece of meat at the convention, and sometimes that has more to do with the promoter than it has to do with.
Yeah, I would say maybe I've just been lucky, but I have not run into a lot of drama or politics during the festivals. There was a very, very, very much drama and politics involved when I was doing a lot of conventions.
Well, you know, it's funny when because most promoters start out, and I have some really good promoter friends too, and I have some horror stories.
I do as well. Eben's a very good guy for me.
They all started out as fans, you know, and that's how they started. They started as fans, and then when they feel like it's a weird thing to watch them get the upper hand, they feel like they have the upper hand on these people that they used to really admire. You know, and that they have some power over them, and then they become mean and vindictive because and all of a sudden they're the star of the show, not the, you know, the actors. Because when you get to know the actors, you know, they're all just old people, you know what I mean? A lot of them need the money. Some of them don't. You know what I mean? But when you see them as real people and then you get abusive to them, then it's just, for me, it's just crappy, and I won't have anything to do with it. Because I would ask that promoter to get out in the middle of the crowd and sit down at the table and see how many people want his or her autograph. Because if he's just selling his autograph to the star, then he should be able to rake in that dough.
Right.
You know? Or respect the people that are sitting there and spending money for them.
Yeah.
You know, be good to them. They were, you loved them at one point. Some of them are crazy too, though. You know that.
Yes.
Insane. But always in a good way.
I was just saying. I remember one particular panel, the second Scream Queen, when we did. There was someone on the panel who basically took over the whole panel. But looking back, it's very funny to me. So
it's like put a gag in it.
And that was one of my favorite experiences, watching you guys up there during that, though. That was just too funny.
I think that the faces must have been just like, you know, it was funny, and I can say this, and I'm not saying it in a bad way, because it's on. When we did Outfest in Los Angeles, they showed the movie twice. And they showed Scream Queen at the Gorman's Chinese Theater on the main screen, 3,000 people.
Sweet.
And with a red carpet, and then they showed it at the museum. And Robert came to everybody from the Elm Street came, everybody, all of the stars of Elm Street. And there was a red carpet, and then we had a panel with Robert Russler and me and Kim and Robert Englund, and the guy that was the panel person would be doing the interviewer. He was the head of all of Outfest, and he was a Freddy Krueger fan. And I could tell that about him. So we were getting in, you know, pretty deep. And Robert had a couple of drinks, right? And it's late. I mean, it's like 11 o'clock at night now, you know, and he's exhausted, and he had a couple of drinks. And the guy says, "Oh, I want to, ask Robert Englund this question." And he was like, "Well, you know, how do you feel about the gay?" And I think what the point was, he was like, about Elm Street being a gay movie. But Robert heard it like the beginning of gay history. So he started in like 2000 BC. And started the whole history of gay theater from the beginning. And I'm like holding his hand, and you can see it in the picture. Everything's like, "Oh, that's so sweet." It's like you're holding it. It's like I'm literally trying to jerk the microphone out. Because you can see the people are like falling asleep in the audience, and it's just like one of my favorite memories of all time. You know, because I just like that guy. Don't ask him another question, please. please don't ask me that. These people are tired and they want to go home. So there's always that. Those are fun.
Oh, that's just classic.
Yeah, so, it's like the cool thing about that was, and maybe as we're wrapping up here or whatever, is that they invited Robert to come to Outfest, and Outfest is on Hollywood Boulevard. It's like the Academy Awards, and Robert said to them, "I will come and I will walk the red carpet for you. I have one condition. That you will make sure that this is all about Mark. It's not about me. This is Mark's night." And he could have easily taken the whole thing over. There are thousands of people on Hollywood Boulevard. There's Freddy Krueger on the red carpet. There were a lot of fans there. But he made sure at every point in the road that it was my evening, not his evening. Because he said I deserved it. Because I'd worked hard for it. And this was all about me. It wasn't about him. And it broke my heart. I thought, this is so sweet.
Yeah.
And all of them were that way. It's like you have become the Nightmare on Elm Street that they'll talk about when it's all over with is the first one and the second one. Forever and ever, Freddy's Revenge will be at the center of Nightmare on Elm Street, and it's because of you. And that's what Robert Englund said to me, and I said, thank you very much. And I appreciated it a whole lot.
That's very awesome. So it's been great to have you back on, and we should do it again more. We should do it more frequently. Yeah. And I honestly love Scream Queen. We'll pronounce it right. My Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, it was. I loved it. Scream Queen. Yeah, like that. Right.
Yeah, Scream Queen. You know what? We've been reviewed about 300 times at this point, and we've received nothing but 4 stars. I haven't read a bad review yet. And the most of them are love letters because the people personalize them. Like when Roger Ebert did our review, the Roger Ebert company, they didn't just review Scream Queen. It was a fantastic set. My entire life, they reviewed. And people really respond to this. And I think for your audience, when they see it, and now they're going to be able to see it really soon because it'll be streaming very shortly, they're going to love it. And all of the people, we reach out to them all the time, the people that did the Kickstarter. I always say, I hope you feel like your money was well spent. I hope we did right by you. And they're like, you did, So I just encourage anybody who has a dream to make a movie to get out there and make it. And just make the best movie that you can, and let there be an audience for it if you do get out there. And yes, and I would love it. And I have movies coming out too. I have a new movie called One Dead Dog, which is fabulous.
Oh, nice.
And, I play I can't tell you what I play, but I play a grown-up person. I'm like not an adolescent, and it's a fabulous movie we shot in Portland. So when that comes out, I'll come on and bring the cast with me there, and we can talk about that because it's a wonderful movie.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be great.
Serial killer. Yeah.
Oh, very good. I'm looking forward to this.
Okay, sounds great. Well, thank you, Neil. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on. It's always been awesome. And I'd say,
always a pleasure.
The movie's powerful, and also it's very well made, as you said. It's not just talking heads. It's a really well made documentary. Sometimes, even though I like some of those movies where it's just people talking, it's very well made and high production value. And it's definitely
it really plays like a movie, doesn't it? It's like it's a story.
Yeah.
It has an arc to it that you really recognize. So thank you very much. Because I will keep taking the compliment and turning it into a 3-act play. So probably the best thing to do at this point is just to say thank you very much for having me on. And I'll be glad to come back anytime you like.
All right, very good. Join us next week when Mark Patton returns.
Okay, very good. I'll be your new co-host. I'll be
all right, very
Allison Fields in Nightbird in California, in Mexico. I'll speak in Spanish and Latin music. All right, boys. I'm going to say good night to them. Okay. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Mark,
take care.
Yep. Can't wait to do this.
Yeah. Bye.
Hi, this is Lisa Wilcox from Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5, and you're listening to WithoutYourHead.com.